intend to raise costs for Pakistan.
Gaurav Sawant joining me with the very latest India's offensive to what the Pakistanis have done this morning. Now, of course, remember, this is not the first time this has happened. Remember in September of 2016 where India launched surgical strikes moving into the crossing the LOC, and soon after those strikes, Rahul Gandhi and the Prime Minister had got into a battle of rhetoric. Listen in to what they had said then.
जो हमारे जवान हैं जिन्होंने अपना खून दिया है, जम्मू कश्मीर में जिन्होंने अपना खून दिया है, जिन्होंने हिंदुस्तान के लिए सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक किया है, उनके खून के पीछे आप छुपे हुए हो, उनकी आप दलाली कर रहे हो।
भाइयों बहनों, हमारी सेना की ताकत देखिए। 250 किलोमीटर लंबे पथ में जब हमारे सेना के बहादुर जवानों ने सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक किया, सीमा पार बड़ा हड़कंप मच गया। अभी भी उनका मामला ठिकाने नहीं लग रहा।
That was in September, October last year. Now, 7 months later, the big question that I want to ask on this day, when 2 Indian Jawans have been mutilated, has the government's post-surgical strike strategy fallen flat? Is Narendra Modi's tough guy policy to Pakistan not working on the ground? How will India then respond to Pakistan's barbarism at the LOC? India's response befitting reply, or are these just words like Khadi Ninda? Political blame game or unity against Pakistan? And what about Sushma Swaraj's cry when she was in the opposition? 10 heads for one cry. Joining me now, Lieutenant General Rameshwar Roy, former GOC of the 16th Corps, joins me. Colonel retired V.N. Thapar, Vijayan Thapar's martyr, Kargil martyr, a brave son of the soil. Joining me also G Parthasarathy, former India's High Commissioner to Pakistan. And politically we are represented by Sambit Patra of the BJP and Abhishek Manu Singhvi, its MP and national spokesperson. Appreciate your joining us. I want to first come to my experts on the panel because I want to understand how you are viewing what has happened today and India's immediate response. Do you see it as proportionate, the fact that we've destroyed these Pakistan posts, or has the pressure, General Roy, after the surgical strikes increased for us to do a little bit more? Your response?
You see, the first issue is that when you talk of surgical strikes, it is not one of those actions. This needs to be kept up in a manner that once a surgical strike has taken place in response to something that happened in Uri, a similar action was required to be also undertaken periodically at the time and place of own choosing to keep the pressure on the Pakistan army. That has not happened. If you think that one surgical strike is enough to put the enemy on guard, thereafter that will not going to happen.
No, are you saying therefore that effectively we have set a precedent that every time there is an act like this we will cross the LOC without surgical strike?
No, not really that, but depending upon what kind of strike has taken place within our territory from across the borders, it must be responded to at a time and place of own choosing, which has not been happening. Any operational pressure needs to be kept up, and it cannot be just one of those actions. A single action will not do.
Yes, then.
Look, at that time we got a window of opportunity. The surgical strike provided us with a window of opportunity, and we missed on that opportunity.
Now, what was the opportunity? What did we expect? Are we saying that we had to go into Pakistani territory and destroy all the terrorist camp bases? That's the only thing that we can do, exercise the right to hot pursuit. We are then entering a very risky terrain.
I agree with you, but I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm saying that we must change. There must be a quantum change in our attitude from a reactionary kind of a force to a proactive force. Unless we switch on to proactivism, we will continue to suffer.
Let's define this word proactive. Mr. Parthasarathy, what do you define proactive? You've got here Colonel Thapar, father of a martyr in the Kargil war. You've got a general who's commanded troops along the LOC saying that we need to be more proactive. But what does proactive mean to you as a diplomat?
Listen, Rajdeep, a couple of things. I've also been in the army and I've been through the 65 conflict. The Pakistan army has changed much since then. It is now an army of barbarians and radical Islamists. Let's be real. There is a change in the composition and the motivation of the Pakistani military. Second, this incident is taking place at a time when there are serious differences, and in fact I would go to the extent of saying that General Bajwa is trying to get Nawaz Sharif removed from office. Therefore he comes to Kashmir, issues a wild statement yesterday, which is unlike what he was in the past.
No, hold on. You're saying...
Then the next day...
No, you're saying... I'm sorry to intervene.
So
you're making an important point. You're claiming that these actions are being orchestrated by the new army chief to embarrass the civilian leadership and eventually pave the way for the exit of Nawaz Sharif.
And he is absolutely... Go through the events there. Secondly, this is an army chief who's been criticized for not doing enough. He has to prove that he is macho to his own forces. So yesterday he comes, he issues this statement, this goes on. As for reaction, the reaction is at two levels. One is strategic and the other is tactical. Tactical, I leave it for the military to decide. But remember one thing, Rajdeep, the Pakistan army is fighting on two fronts. It has just finished bombing and strafing and artillery shelling the tribal regions bordering Afghanistan. It is involved in Balochistan. At a strategic level, we need to take advantage of that. My understanding is we are getting slightly more active on that. At the tactical level, it's really for the generals to say, but I agree with them, the hit back has to be proportionate at a time and place of our choosing. Final point, the Pakistanis don't have staying power. You know, they begged for the ceasefire during Op Pawan, not us, because the army shelled the hell out of them in a large number of places at that point in time. It was just after Kargil, and I just retired as High Commissioner, but I remember General Malik telling me a lot about that. So I think you need to keep the pressure on. My problem is, Rajdeep, and I'll be honest with you, we have too many do-gooders in this country saying, no, let's act nice, you have to have talks. Yeah, we should talk, but only about terrorism to their army. The civilians have nothing to do with terrorism.
You're saying
unless
we must talk,
fix those parameters.
Okay, we must talk only on terror to the Pakistani army, which
but
brings
only on terror.
Which brings me to our political response.
The military and the intelligence.
Which brings me
the
to our
military and intelligence boys know how to do that. Let the professionals handle it.
Okay, let the professionals handle it. And I want to play what Sushma Swaraj said before I come to the politicians and ask them their views on this. This was Sushma Swaraj, now the Minister of External Affairs, when a similar mutilation had taken place when the UPA was in power in 2013. And this is what Sushma Swaraj had said then. Listen in.
अगर ये सिर नहीं आए तो उनके तो 10 सिर आए। सवाल ये है कि हम बिल्कुल प्रतिक्रिया के अलावा बैठे रहें और खेल खिलाते रहें और वार्ता करते रहें, ये तो नहीं होगा। कम से कम एक ताकतवर सरकार की प्रतिक्रिया तो हम दें।
Sambit Patra, now respond to that, because there you had your leader when she was in the opposition. We also heard the Prime Minister earlier after the surgical strikes talking about Muh Tod Jawab, where Sushma Swaraj saying for one head we must take 10. This belligerence today has come now to hurt you, because when 2 Indian Jawans have been mutilated and the government talks of Kadi Ninda, people are saying Kadi Ninda means what? These are just fine words. Surgical strike has had no impact in terms of Pakistan continuing to pour in terrorists across the LOC.
Two things, Rajdeep. As far as whether there has been any benefit of surgical strikes, and second, what Mrs. Sushma Swaraj had to say and what the government would do. Number one, as far as surgical strike were effective or not, remember, fight against terrorism, Naxalism and all these kind of isms is never a all or none phenomena. That means it does not mean you begin today and end day after tomorrow. Remember, if such was the proposition, then after 1971, after Bangladesh was carved out of Pakistan, there should have been a lesson taught to Pakistan, and Pakistan should have never trended the barbaric path. That Pakistan, we were all saying that when Pakistan would improve after 1971 because we have taught the worst lesson to Pakistan, but Pakistan did not change. So we have to consistently fight with Pakistan. Well, yes, after Uri, a surgical strike was required, and we had
what impact?
Stuck to what
with what impact? Said. With what impact? That's the question. With what impact?
No,
terrorism has only grown in the valley since then. The fact is more terrorists are being fought across the border. The Prime Minister sent out the message that Pakistan has been totally less, and you have set a very dangerous precedent because now the pressure will be on you to do another surgical strike. Every time there's
we will
an
do
attack,
that.
people will say, why is this government not crossing the LOC?
I can tell you, I can assure you on the television channel, you have just seen, it is today that we have lost 2 of our brave hearts, and already the tactical response is on record. You have pointed out that the army has already blown 2 of the Pakistani posts which are providing cover fire. So the tactical response has already been given, and take my words, if we had said that we will get 10 heads for 1 heads, we will stick to it. We will get the counting done. This government is a strong...
Unless the infantry goes with the bayonets and chops off the, puts the bayonet into them.
We won't chop off heads.
That time.
We don't believe in chopping off heads. We don't believe in barbarism.
Destroying a post is what?
We don't believe in barbarism, but we would get down. We would get down as many.
No, are you saying
we would get down as many Pakistanis?
No, it's not bad, but infantry has to go.
India never believes in barbarism. India never believes in barbarism, but we would get down as many posts and as many Jawans in Pakistan. We would. We do not believe in barbarism. Remember, allow me 10 seconds.
Yes.
Amit Shah ji and all of our leaders in BJP have mentioned us, including the Home Minister Rajnath Singh, that we would never fire first. But अगर उनके यहाँ से गोली आएगी तो यहाँ से गोला जाएगा. We will never begin the fight.
These are nice words. These are nice words. These are fine words. These are fine words.
It would be followed by equally. It would be followed by equally stringent action. Remember when we did the surgical strike? These are the very people, the congressmen and some other opposition parties who are asking for evidence. So tomorrow also they would be asking for evidence.
Okay, before I come to you, General Reddy, let me get in the Congress spokesperson. Since in a sense, Sambit Patra seems to suggest that damned if you do, damned if you don't. The government did the surgical strike, went public about it, Abhishek Manu Singhvi, and now if they were to do the same, would the Congress party support them or not?
Rajdeep, I have been hearing patiently what has been said.
Yes.
I want to make 2 prefatory points before I answer the question. First is, as an Indian and as a global citizen anywhere in the world, I think everybody's heads hang in shame. The sense of outrage is palpable. The sense of shame is palpable. And secondly, anything constructive the government does, without going into details, tactical or strategic or both, would have the full support of the nation. But having said these 2 things, I want to make 3 points, Rajdeep. First, you are quoting Sushma Swaraj, I don't know why. She's not even considered a leader by her own party. Let's talk of the big shot leader, the big man himself. On 11th of August, he said, this government in Delhi cannot provide security. 11th of August 2013, this is Mr. Modi as CM and as Prime Ministerial candidate. This government in Delhi cannot provide security to the nation. This should be out. He then asked Prime Minister Manmohan Singh then, how long will a country of 125 crores silently tolerate this kind of nonsense? Then he said, China intrudes us, Pakistan kills our soldiers again and again, but the center does not act. These are 3 specimens, very briefly, quote unquote exact words of Mr. Modi in 2013. Obviously, Mr. Modi in his campaign mode is not Mr. Modi in his Prime Ministerial avatar.
You are not responding to my question.
I took a briefing, Rajdeep, on 28th
you are not responding to my question.
Domain. The figures are there. Give me half a minute.
To launch
Give me half a minute.
Strike and go public about
I already
it,
responded with support fully. I told you, obviously you're not hearing me or listening to me. That was my second point. Anything the government does will be supported if it is constructive, comprehensive, prompt and befitting the response.
You didn't do that in September.
So 2 minutes ago.
You didn't do that in
September. Please allow me to complete without interruption for 1 minute more.
Yes. 30 seconds more.
I did do it. Not once from the Congress podium, not once from the Congress podium has there been a criticism of the surgical strike.
No, it was called Khoon Ki Dalali.
Some of them may have expressed
just
their
as
view,
you have quoted the Prime Minister, just as you have effectively quoted Prime Minister when he was Gujarat Chief Minister, Rahul Gandhi did use the word Khoon Ki Dalali at the time.
What happens is that Mr. Modi first allows it to happen. Let me finish now, Rajdeep. I don't understand why you don't give me enough time after having heard everybody at such great length. Let me tell you, you have to attack the real reason, Rajdeep. There's no point talking of these big words. Today, in 35 months, and the press briefing of 28th has got facts and figures, on 5 parameters, Mr. Modi is the greatest communicator ever born. But the truth is that In J&K parameter 1, in Northeast parameter 2, Naxals parameter 3, Indo-Pak parameter 4 and Indo-China parameter 5. I cited two sets of figures, civilians and security personnel. There has been a substantial increase in these 35 months compared to the immediate prior 35 months. This is exactly in the public domain, the figures, I have them with me. Now the problem is that this government believes in posturing, in making nationhood, Rashtravad, nationalism, national security, just somebody to flog a dead horse with. Just consider why this is happening. You are having Nagrota, Uri, Pathankot, you are having flip and Z and U-turns with Pakistan, never the likes of which before have been seen.
You made your point.
You are having one-day meetings, one-day cancellations,
you made your point very effectively with Dr. Singhvi.
There is no policy. What is the policy you are talking about?
You have made your point.
There is not a policy for 1 month.
Point very effectively. I must give Sambit Patra in all fairness 30 seconds to respond before I go back to the professionals. Sambit Patra, respond, because there is some merit in what Dr. Singhvi is saying. Your government has lacked a consistency. This flip-flop, muscular one day, dare I use the word chappan ki chhati, I don't want to but I must, chappan ki chhati shown one day, and the next day the sense is the government is not sure-footed on how it wants to deal with Pakistan. That is causing confusing signals. It's causing confusing signals in the valley with your policy towards Kashmir. It's causing confusing signals with your policy towards Pakistan. We need consistency. You decide on a surgical strike in September and you then don't follow it up. You don't follow it up with either a political dialogue or with a military engagement.
The first and foremost, that we don't follow it up with a political dialogue or a political engagement or a military engagement, it itself means there is consistency. The consistency has been from the day one itself. Initially, when the new chapter was written, as Mr. Modi sworn in as the Prime Minister of the country, Mr. Modi really wanted the chapter to begin with peace, and that is the reason as to why Nawaz Sharif was invited over here. And then Mr. Modi also, despite all the calls to contrary, Mr. Modi in fact sent out a peace leave to Pakistan by visiting Pakistan all of a sudden to say that, well, the international communities see that India goes out. Let me complete, Rajdeep. To show to the international community that, well, yes, we want peace. But thereafter, when Uri happened, there is no turning back. The red lines have been drawn. We were the first government who said that if a Pakistani official visits India, you can have no talks with the separatists. Up till now, we are sticking with it, number one. Number two, only 3 days ago, on the floor of the Supreme Court, this government said that we speak to anyone, be it in Kashmir or otherwise, who do not believe in the ambiguity of the constitution of this country. We would not be discussing or considering them as a stakeholder. Our consistency is extremely clear. We would only proceed if there is no terror, because we firmly believe terror and talks cannot exist together.
Yeah,
and
but
I mean it when I say that it will be avenged. Today's act would be avenged.
The fact is terror continues, barbarism by the Pakistani army continues. So I'm not clear whether these red lines have had enough impact. Yes, General Ray, you've been waiting for a while. Yes.
Rajdeep.
Yeah, I'll come back to you, sir. First, General Ray.
30 seconds.
Just a minute, sir. Let General Ray speak.
See,
yes.
What has happened is that over the years we have seen since independence, last 70 years, that we have a neighbor whose behavior is totally certified, which only understands one language. And I do not understand that in 27th of November 2003, when ceasefire was declared, for the last 14 years, if it has held on, is more because of the efforts of the Indian Army and our country rather than the country across. I do not understand that are these not provocations?
So what is the option?
I'm telling you, I'm coming to that. Are these not the provocations enough that we abrogate the ceasefire and give more freedom to the field commanders to carry on action in the field? For this kind of an action, nations need not go to war. Every time we can't go on surgical strike.
Do we need to shout and scream about it? My point is,
don't have to.
After the surgical strikes, I don't have muscle flexing taking place. Allow the field commander to do their work without shouting and screaming.
Precisely. Therefore, what I want to say is that let's abrogate the ceasefire. That gives a degree of freedom to all the field commanders who are there. Yes, that's a big thing that's going to take place. Convey the message that look, our field commanders now have got enough of initiative all across the LC to carry on the actions at tactical level and respond to these kind of actions in the closer time frame and keep up the pressure the way it used to be.
What is a befitting response? Yes, Colonel Thapar, your view of a befitting response.
What I am trying to say is, first and foremost, we must knock off the fine distinction we draw between the non-state actors and the state actors. I mean the state, the army. any hostile action that emanates from Pakistan is to be taken as either done by the Pakistani army or abetted by it. And we should respond accordingly. And this response should be worked out well in time, and it should come almost immediately when such a thing happens.
Okay, so
There should be no delay.
I think there's some clarity coming in from the professionals who believe particularly greater autonomy to be given to the field commanders to do what they believe is the right thing to do in a situation like this.
Just a small clarification.
At tactical level.
The Bennett, somebody called that we don't cater for barbarism.
Yes.
Bennett is a weapon which the infantry uses. It has been used in Kargil, it is used in the bitterest fighting. So don't think that it is barbarism when we charge the enemy with us.
You made your point. Dr.
Let me
Singhvi,
clear.
I'm going to ask you to limit your answer please to 30 seconds because I want to go to G Parthasarathy also. 30 seconds.
Just 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Yes.
2 points. We must realize that after all, we were in power for 10 years and there was no bed of roses. We have our own difficulties. But did you ever find Kashmir in such a state as we've had in less than 30 months? Forget 7% voting. Did you ever find the disconnect which is there in this unholy state level alliance? What are you talking of planning and policy and implementation? There is no coordination between the two wings of a coalition government in as sensitive a state as J&K because of each is unholy hanging on to power.
Can I bring in Mr. Parth, sir? You made your point.
Level, the same disconnect is shown. One sec.
Your 30 seconds are up, sir.
Relationship.
I have to
How
get
can
you
you
to
possibly
stick to
have this
time.
zigzag policy with Pakistan for 30 months?
No, that's my point therefore, Mr. Parthasarathy, is there is Dr. Singhvi trying to link the troubles in the valley to what Pakistan has done today. Do you see a direct link, or do you believe like General Ray, the fact is the Pakistani army is determined in a sense to bleed us? Irrespective of what happens in the valley, what political dialogue and engagement takes place. These are two separate issues, or are they clearly linked?
They are two totally separate issues, and all I can say is I am saddened that a jurist of the eminence of Mr. Singhvi is making points like this when 2 of our soldiers have been beheaded. We should be more serious. The fact of the matter is, you have a situation within Pakistan where the army chief wants to show the world he can escalate. But the surgical strike did hurt them because internationally they looked silly. And you can't be having it every morning. But there, I go along, leave the tactics to the military.
Should we be shouting and screaming?
Between
should
2001 and 2003.
Should we be playing this out on TV screens, and should we be playing it out at political rallies? That I have gone into Pakistan, I have staged a surgical strike. Do we need to make this a political battle, or make it a military battle fought by well-trained generals and commanders?
Look, I saw Kargil where everybody worked together, okay, opposition, and it was a resounding success, and the military did its job. Let the military do its job, convey very clearly to the Pakistanis and the world. No talks. You want to talk, the only thing we are willing to talk to you about is ending cross-border terrorism.
I take your point.
Now, unfortunately, Rajdeep, half our media is more busy criticizing governments and the army and playing politics. The media is as much as to blame.
No, 1 minute.
So I think,
sir, I think that's unfair. I think that's unfair. And the media are not stakeholders. I think I would beg to differ. At the end of the day, the real stakeholders are the government. Narendra Modi doesn't care a toss. Narendra Modi doesn't care a toss about what the media thinks of him.
Just a minute.
Sir, Narendra Modi has also run...
Just the government, not just the government.
No, 1 minute. Narendra Modi, sir, ran a media campaign after the surgical strike. Narendra Modi took this to the media. Previous government said they also crossed the LOC but didn't make a political statement by going public about it.
My point is, why are you going back to what happened in the surgical strike? Stick to what happened today and what we are going to do in future. What is this harking back to the past?
Okay,
I want to say leave the army to strike its responsibility.
Can I ask,
let the government get its strategy.
Can I ask Sambit Patra therefore in conclusion? Sambit Patra, in conclusion, I want to know if the government, whatever response it is, the so-called befitting response that the defense minister takes out, is this going to again be played in a political battlefield as it was in September? Because the fear is that is what in a sense creates this expectation that the Indian army is, the Indian government is going to give a muh tod jawab. Can we have less talk and more action? And let the action be out of the studio. I don't want studio warriors. Let our generals fight.
Just a second. Let me be very quick. In conclusion, number one, when the suggestion was that the army has to be given complete free hand, I believe the army has been under this regime given a complete free hand, and that's the reason as to why when Arun Jaitley, the defense minister of the country, read out a statement today, he categorically mentioned that we have confidence in the army and the army will in fact give the befitting reply. So army has been given a free hand. Let me remind what Mr. Dobal had to say. Mr. Dobal also had to say that we are punching less than our weight. We need to punch more than our weight, meaning that the army is given a free hand. And secondly, categorically to your question that should we make political noises about surgical strikes, I should say that we should convey whatever has been done, because now look, Rajdeep, you are asking what would you do?
Yes.
What has been done? People would be asking us what has been done. If we say, then you say this is politicization. If we don't say, then you grill us every night in the television channel saying that you are not doing anything. So we have to, in a democratic country, convey what we have done.
Okay, point taken,
Rajdeep,
and I think everyone has had an equal chance.
Rajdeep,
yes, 30 seconds. Dr. Singhvi, I have given you 15 this time. I will give you 15 seconds only.
Seconds. Rajdeep, I just want to repay the compliment to Mr. Parthasarathy. When the media makes in a democracy an awareness talk about what is happening, he wants to be like an ostrich in the sand saying the media is wrong. When the principal opposition says that part of this what is happening today is the lack of a central government policy, complete zigzag, coupled with a chaos within the state of J&K, he again thinks it is undemocratic to speak out and ignore the fact and just state the present, give the army a free hand to solve all your problems without a central government policy. I can only show my amazement at so distinguished a diplomat having this approach, perhaps blinded by support for the government only for the moment and not looking back even one day.
Okay, let's leave it. I think everyone has had a fair chance to say what they want. Clearly, it's time for my take. Thank you all very much, gentlemen, for joining me on the show. This is my take. Now, tonight on this show, we took a big decision. We consciously have decided we will not have a Pakistani guest because we believe this is now a question of India's internal security and what India must do, which cannot be resolved by bringing in an ex-Pakistani general on Indian television who will only live in denial over the role of the Pakistani army. The act of the Pakistani army is barbaric and insupportable. The question is, what should India's befitting response be? Having gone in for surgical strikes and pushing across the LOC last year, India has set a precedent that puts pressure on New Delhi not to hold back. But as the post-surgical strike terror attacks have shown, muscle flexing has its limitations. Pakistan needs to be reined in. But this requires a firm and consistent policy framework, not one which is muscular one day and meek the next. Let the army do its job and let it be done next time with less noise from both netas and studio warriors. That's what I would say is the way forward. Let's take a break. When we return, there's plenty more news up ahead on the News Today.
You are watching India Today.